Back to Revelation 17, and we were halfway through the chapter. Last week we stopped about midway down. We stopped at this beast in verse 8, where it talks about the beast that was and is not and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. So, I mean, just reading it, I'm tempted to go back and start discussing some of the things we discussed last week, but I'm going to resist the temptation. It says the last half of the verse, those who live on the earth, those who dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So what we can see is that the revival of this beast, the reappearance of this beast in this form, or maybe it's the first appearance in this form, because this is even though this is a revival of the beast, even though this is a revival of the beast, it's the beast in a form in which he has never appeared before. Remember that before this, each time the beast was seen, he had a head. So the beast consisted of these 7 heads. But this time when he appears, it's a different form, and this time he comes out of a situation that is the most terrible condition that the world has ever seen. The condition he comes out of is referred to as the bottomless pit. And I'm going to reinforce that point, that I don't believe that this is a place, like a geographic location. I don't believe it's a place under the earth or on top of the earth or beside the earth or a hole in the ground. I don't believe so. I believe primarily we are looking at a spiritual condition. So the bottomless pit is a state of hopelessness that comes upon the planet. It's a state of being lost beyond repair. And when the planet reaches this place, it's a perfect situation from which the beast is to come and to manifest himself in his true nature. In this nature, he's not being disguised by a head. He's coming in his true nature. And I have to say that I consider this to be maybe the greatest manifestation of Satan's kingdom that the universe has ever seen. When the beast appears this final time, it's the greatest manifestation of Satan's kingdom. Worse than Rome, worse than Babylon, for one brief moment. But what happens is that it is so unusual, it's so contrary to expectations, that everybody who lives on the world wonders when they see it. Not everybody. Not everybody. It's those who are lost, those whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. What makes them wonder, what amazes them, what fills them with astonishment is that they see the beast that was and is not, and yet has come back. So clearly, they say, Adventists say, this refers to the healing of the deadly wound of the papacy. Well, I don't think that, in when was it, 1928, by the Italian Concordat, temporal power was restored to the Pope. The papal lands were restored, and he once again had a kingdom. I really don't think the whole world wondered. I don't think the whole world was amazed when they saw that. It was in 1798 that the papacy suffered a bad blow, because the Pope was taken captive and they took away temporal power. Then a few years later, it was restored. And so it was an interesting event. It was a significant event, but it was not a world-shattering event. It was not something that everybody on the planet was amazed about. I don't think that fulfilled the specifications of the prophecy at all, unless you are biased towards your church, as we know is often the case. So I think that this is looking at an event that is yet future, that is going to be extremely astonishing, maybe because it is so unlikely, and maybe because of the magnitude of what we see happening before our eyes. So while we can't put our finger and say exactly what is the nature of this kingdom and what it will appear like, we can know, based on what the Bible says, it will be something astonishing. So we can at least have our eyes open for that. Verse 9 says, and here is the mind which has wisdom. I think we went through this last week, but let me run through again since I'm at the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains. People say it's the 7 hills of the great of Rome, 7 hills on which Rome is built. Mountains, again, like in everything, we look for a spiritual application. If you look at, let me look at a couple of verses. In Zechariah 4 and verse 7. God says, "Who art thou, O great mountain? Before Zerubbabel thou shalt become a plain." All right. Who is this mountain? This mountain is referring to the enemy, the enemies that were trying to prevent the Jews from rebuilding Jerusalem. But you have some far better instances of this. Let me look for another verse. There are many verses in the Bible, in the Old Testament, that speak about mountain in the context of look at this one in Isaiah chapter 2. It says, "And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it." Now, in addition, I think Nebuchadnezzar was also referred to as some kind of mountain. Not Nebuchadnezzar, but Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom. Let me see if I can find that one. Okay, it's the image. It talks about the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. And we understand that this great mountain represents the kingdom of God that fills the whole earth. So anyway, what I'm looking for and what I'm trying to establish is that a mountain is used in the Bible, in the Old Testament in particular, to refer to a great kingdom. Now, I see as I look here that most of the time it refers to God's kingdom. But here in Revelation, we can apply this precedence and understand that these 7 mountains represent 7 kingdoms, because we find the word mountain used that way in the Bible. And it makes sense. So I outrightly reject the idea that God is telling about 7 little hills on which a particular city is built. That is convenient. That's a legalistic interpretation. That's taking the statement literally and not understanding the spiritual meaning behind it. When we are in a spiritual book, we're in a book of symbols. We're in a book of Revelation.
Can I?
Yes.
Yeah. So, in all fairness, we have to be consistent, because it says, verse 9 says, "And here is the mind that hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits." And then it goes on to talk about, and there are 7 kings. And then it goes on to talk about the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings. So the angel is interpreting what they mean actually, isn't it?
Yes.
I think to be consistent, then we'll have to say that it probably is literal mountains, because the woman is sitting on these heads, but the Bible is saying that these heads are 7 mountains. So is that symbolism, or is it an interpretation?
It appears several times in the book of Revelation, where we are given a symbol, and it's given one interpretation, and then it's given a second interpretation that clarifies the first interpretation. For example, when you talk about the woman we're told that the woman is that great city. And then we reinterpret, at least I reinterpret that great city, because some people believe that because we are told the woman is that great city, it means that it's an actual city. Whereas I believe that the facts of the prophecy, the circumstances and the evidence indicate that it's not a literal city.
Brother David.
But I see brother Andrew. In the spiritual world in which we are working, we are studying, the city represents a great spiritual condition. So it's one, we give them one meaning, and the meaning gives you an interpretation, and then you look beyond that interpretation to a deeper meaning. I think that is quite legitimate, and it happens several times in the book of Revelation. Brother Andrew, go ahead.
Yes, it's to the point that my brother Aeon had spoken of. I'm reading the NASB, and the NASB joins 9 and 10. Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits, and they are 7 kings. So the NASB suggests, from my reading, my humble reading, is that the 7 heads are the 7 mountains, and they are 7 kings. It's not disjointed. So it seems to me that the 7 mountains, the angel goes on to explain that the 7 mountains are, in fact, 7 kings.
Yes, and there's something else I would like us to look at, brother Ian. If you go over to Daniel 7, look at what happens in Daniel 7. Now, in Daniel 7, we understand that beast number 4 is Rome, right? The great and terrible beast with the iron teeth and the claws of brass. This beast has 10 horns on his head. Now, here's what the angel says concerning the beast on the head. It says, the 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon the earth. So we are told that this beast, this 4th beast, represents a kingdom. A little earlier on, it says that this beast is a king. It says that this 4th beast is a king. Let me see where I can find it. The 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. Now we know that these 10 kings that shall arise are not 10 literal kings. There are 10 kingdoms also, but they are minor kingdoms. You have a similar structure to what we are seeing in Revelation 17. You have 7 kings, and then later on we are told about 10 horns, which are also 10 kings, right? So it's a similar structure to what we have in Daniel, where we see that the 4th beast is the 4th kingdom, or that's why I use the word empire, because there's a distinction between an empire and a kingdom. A beast represents an empire, while a horn represents a secondary or a minor kingdom. So I think that's a structure we are seeing here in Revelation, where it says that the 7 heads are 7 mountains, are 7 great empires. And then it says, as brother Judah's reading brings out, these same mountains are also 7 kings, are 7 empires. Now, why does it say?
Just to be clear, brother, unlike your KJV, the NASB puts a comma where it says the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits, comma, and it says in 10, and they are 7 kings. So the NASB order brings it out more forcefully that it's talking about the same thing.
Okay, I see the point, and I'm also going to address a little bit more fully what I see Aaron saying. Okay, look at this phrase. In this phrase, the 7 heads are being identified as support of the woman, support for the woman. So the 7 mountains, the emphasis here, maybe when I say there are 7 kingdoms, I'm misplacing the emphasis. When I look at the whole thing as a whole, it seems to be saying that there are 7 mountains, are 7 great foundations which support the woman. And these 7 foundations which are supporting the woman are 7 empires are 7 kings. Now, I think that is more, I think that addresses a little better what you have been trying to say, Ian. So let me repeat that, because I know sometimes it goes over the head of people because I don't express myself properly. So, yeah, your question is, why does it say 7 mountains, which means 7 kingdoms, and then comes back and says there are 7 kings, which means 7 kingdoms? It's redundant and it's repeating itself. I think that's the point of your question, which I get. And what I'm saying is that when it says the 7 heads are 7 mountains here, I'm changing the emphasis slightly based on what your question brings something to my mind. I'm saying when it says these 7 heads are 7 mountains, what is the emphasis of these mountains? The emphasis is that they are foundational structures. So the mountain here, even though, yes, in a sense it represents a kingdom, the emphasis of the verse is that it's a foundation structure which is supporting the woman. So the 7 heads are 7 foundations on which the woman has found a resting place. And these 7 foundational structures are also 7 great kingdoms. So it's the same thing. It means the same thing. It's just that the emphasis is a little different.
David, a semicolon there where it says the woman sitteth instead of a full stop would have been very useful.
Right. And brother Judah was bringing out the point that in the NASB it puts a comma there. But as you are pointing out, Brother Joel, sometimes it's a question of the punctuation that kind of throws us off a little. Because as we remember, there is no punctuation in the original Greek. And all the punctuation puts in the bias of the translators. So, all right, thank you for that. So, and then of course it says 5 have fallen and 1 is and the other is not yet come, demonstrating very clearly that these 7 heads, that this beast is a composite, a historical composite, in that the beast itself spans ages, because these heads don't coexist. They don't rule contemporaneously. Each head represents a different era in the history of the beast. So that in itself clarifies the identity of this beast, and we know the beast is not an end-time entity, and it's not an entity that can be limited to the time of Christ. It spans ages, and that gives us a great clue as to how we should approach the identity of the beast. And we also see that the woman has been sitting on these 7 heads, and these 7 heads span the existence of the beast. So if the woman has been sitting there for the 7 heads, it means that she also is an ancient entity, beginning with the beginning of the beast, coming right through to the end of head number 7. And she remains in this adulterous relationship until the beast itself, when it comes from the bottomless pit, turns against her and completely devastates her. So it talks about the 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 exists, and the other is not yet come. When he comes, he remains a short space. Then after him, you have the beast that comes from the bottomless pit. And it says, this beast from the bottomless pit, he is the 8th. Now, I had this discussion with somebody during the week, and I want to emphasize, it does not say that the beast is the 8th head, because there are only 7 heads. So the beast is not an 8th head. The beast doesn't become an 8th head. The beast has been the body all along. During the rule of the 7 heads, the beast has been the body. But he has not been a king, because the king was Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo Persia coming down. The king who ruled in the age of the beast represented these empires. But now you have the beast becoming the 8th king. Not the 8th head, but the 8th king. And we have been over this so many times, but I feel like I wonder if I should just bring up my diagram again, just to make sure nobody is being confused. And I'm not going to bring it up unless somebody says I need to. Is there anybody who
It's useful, David.
All right, okay, Brother Joel, let me bring it up.
So why are you doing that, Brother David? The 8 is a king, and the heads are kings, but the 8 king is not a head.
Exactly. So here we look at the heads. These circles represent the heads, okay? And the red rectangle represents the beast, and the purple triangle at the top represents the woman, and the 10 spikes down at the right hand corner represent the 10 horns. So what we know for a fact, this is indisputable, is that there have been 5 heads, the green heads, and at the point in time that we are looking at in the prophecy, there's a present head, which is the red head, and at the time there is a head still yet to come, this yellow one, which has not yet been manifested at the time we are looking at in the prophecy. But this demonstrates to us very clearly that this beast is a beast that spans ages, because it starts with empire number 1. And throughout the whole history of the beast, you have 7 kings or 7 empires, 7 great kingdoms, 7 mountains, if you wish. And we have actually given names to them. Okay, but let's bypass that for the moment. Now, if the woman has been sitting on these 7 mountains, what it is saying is that these 7 mountains have been the support of the woman. They have been in this adulterous relationship, and they have been supporting her for all the existence of those 7 heads. So the woman is also an ancient entity. She does not come into existence just down in the days of the red head or the yellow head or the last green head, like the Roman Catholic Church. This woman has existed for ages. She doesn't just come into existence at the time of the city of Rome was established or anything like that. And this is why we say that this woman is not just a particular church. It represents the history of false religion, which has been associated with all these great empires over the ages. In other words, religion has always been a part of the worldly empires from beginning to end, or almost till the end. When it comes to the end, head number 7 goes down. It comes and remains a short space. Then it goes down. The beast has been a part of the 7, right? All along, the beast has been supporting the 7, or the 7 have been representing the beast. But head number 7 goes down. King number 7 is gone. And the beast becomes king number 8. Now, when the beast becomes... Yes.
Your drawing is not perfect then, David. It's very good. But if you had stopped that red where the yellow stops, because the beast becomes the very next entity, you carry the bottom part that you have in the red all the way over to what we're seeing after the yellow. So that red should actually have stopped in the yellow, so we could understand the distinction between what the beast has now become in terms of its presentation as the actual power that is at work. No longer a foundational support for the other 7, but it itself is now what is contending against God.
I understand that, but I'll explain the reason why I let it continue. Is because I want to show that it's the same beast. It's not a different beast. And secondly, I think that when the beast arises without a head, he's represented by the 10 horns.
Gotcha.
So that's when I have the era of the 10 horns right there, because that's essentially, if we go back to the if we go back to the Bible, that's what it says. It says, and the 10 horns in verse 12, Revelation 17. And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet. When have they not received the kingdom? Up to the time of head number 6, the red head. They have not received any kingdom as yet. And obviously, they don't receive power during the time of the yellow head, the unknown head, the head that hasn't arrived yet. But they will receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. When does the beast receive power as king? It is when the beast becomes king number 8. That is when the beast himself receives power as king. And when he receives power as king, then the 10 horns, these 10 horns will receive power as kings during that 1 hour.
When he comes out of the bottomless pit?
Yes, when the beast comes from the bottomless pit, that's when the 10 horns receive their power as kings also. That's why if you look at the beast in Revelation 13 and you look at the one in 17, One of them, the horns have crowns. One of them, the horns have no crowns, because one of them, you're looking at the beast at a particular point in time when the horns have not yet been crowned. And in the other one, you're looking at the beast in its complete history. We are getting a panorama of its entire history. I think that's chapter 13. And so it says that the horns are crowned. Let me see if it's chapter 13. I think it is, but let me just make sure, so I'm not misleading anybody. Revelation 13. Yeah, it says, upon his horns, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns, 10 crowns. Okay, so Revelation 13 tells you that there are 10 crowns upon the head of the beast, because as you look at the beast in Revelation 13, we are getting a snapshot of the entire history of the beast. But as we go to Revelation 17, what is happening? God is taking us through the history of the beast, and we are focusing on the beast at this particular point in time when 5 horns are already gone, 5 heads are already gone, one is, and one is still to come. So we are looking at the history of the beast in a more detailed, sequential way. So we don't see, if you go back up to the beginning of the chapter, it says that I saw a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns, but it does not mention that there are crowns upon these horns, because we are looking at the beast at the time when the head that is, we have not yet come to the head that is to come, and we have not yet come to the beast when the 10 horns receive power as king. So in my opinion, that's why we don't see any crowns on these horns, but they will receive power as kings for 1 hour when the beast himself becomes king number 8. So you could say that these 10 horns will be the face of the beast at that time. Now, yeah.
Isn't the 8th beast one of the 7?
It's not an 8th beast, it's the same beast. It's
So
the same, but what it is saying that he is of the 7. It doesn't say he's one of the 7. It says of the 7. In other words, he has been all along. That's why the 7 horns have been a part of the beast. It's one beast from beginning to end, but he has manifested himself in different ages by a different head. So when it comes to the fall of head number 7, the same beast who has been a part of the 7 re-emerges and becomes king number 8.
So the same translation that clears up verse 8 and 9 then confuses me, because it says the beast which was, my Bible's NASB 1711 reads thus: the beast which was and is, the beast which was and is not, is himself also an 8th and is one of the 7, and he goes to destruction. That's what it says here.
All right.
Which informs me, because it says the beast which was and is not is himself also an 8th and is one of the 7, and he goes to destruction. That is what it says.
It actually says is the 8. It doesn't says one of the 8 there, Brother Angel.
Right. I think that in this case,
Well, I'm reading as I'm seeing, Brother Joel. It says is himself also an 8th, meaning an 8th beast, and is one of the 7, and he goes to destruction.
well, it doesn't mean it's an 8th beast. It means it's an 8th king. But when it says is, do you have you have the NASB open before you, Brother Andrew?
Yes.
Look at the word 1 and tell me what you see.
Is one of the 7.
Look at the word 1 and tell me how it's written.
It's written in italic.
Exactly. You're aware of what that means?
Tell me.
It means that this word has been supplied by the translators. Anytime you see an italicized
Right.
in the King James version or any version, it means that the translators added this word because, in their opinion, it enhances the meaning of the verse, but it's an opinion. It's not in the original.
Okay. I needed to know that. Good thing I asked. Thanks.
Yes, Brother Andrew. That's fine, because I had to learn that myself, and it clears away a lot of confusion a lot of the time when we are looking at things like this. So,
But Tanya, explain, Brother David, the part that says which it was and is not and yet is? Can you
All right.
explain
Again, one of the things that translators legitimately do is they add a word sometimes to the translation because they feel that the way it is structured in Greek, it implies something that the English doesn't bring out. So they might add a word. Now, let me go back to that verse that you mentioned, Brother Modest. It says, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. All right. If you look at the same NASB, this is not even an added in point. This is actually very much legitimately a part of the translation. Look at what it says. When they see the beast that he was and is not and will come. Let me read it in another translation, the NIV. Now is not and yet will come. World English Bible. The beast was and is not and shall be present. New English Translation. The beast was and is not, but is to come. English Standard Version. It was and is not and is to come. Right? So I accept, because that simplifies it. I accept that the King James Version simply left out the idea of is to come. When they see the beast that was and is not and yet is to come. Okay, this puzzled me a lot when I used to study it way back in the days, because there seemed to be a mystery by saying the beast is not and yet is. And I found a way to explain it by saying it is, but it is concealed and it is hidden. So in this sense, it is not. But afterwards, I discovered that most translations translate it as it is not and yet is to come, and that seems to me to make more sense. So I accept that that is what it is saying, Brother Modest.
But doesn't it show that it was in the past, like it was, like this is the beast in the past, but presently it is not
Yes,
active, and then it is to come. It is to become active in the future.
I understand, but what we see from the prophecy is that the beast was there from the time of the first head, because the head is only the way the beast manifests itself. Okay, because remember it says that the beast is of the seven, so he was always there. It was just that his true nature was concealed because there was a head through which he was manifesting himself. So the beast always was, but at the point in time of the prophecy, I think the beast is not active. It's kind of dormant. So I get the point. I get the question that you're asking anyway, because when it says the beast is not, the head is still there. So it creates a question. Why would it say that the beast is not if the head is there? And then it says the beast is
But
to come.
what it shows is that one of the seven is coming back. That's how I always looked at it. One of the seven, and I'm thinking Babylon, because the next chapter says Babylon is fallen, showing an indication. I don't know if it. I'm always interpreting it like the spirit of Babylon, not that physical Babylon, is coming back, but the spirit of Babylon will be made manifest throughout the entire world. That's how I always view it.
All right, let me go back to the diagram, because this maybe can help us to
Wait, David, verse 8. Verse 8 speaks about the beast that shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. So it hasn't happened yet.
right.
So the beast is manifesting itself through the heads, but with two characters not yet shown. But when it comes out of the bottomless pit, then it shall manifest itself, and that is why it shall come.
Right. The difficulty is because it says the beast was.
To
And
that point, at that point in the prophecy, the beast was manifesting itself through the heads. But at this point, it's about to come out. It's
At this
about to
point,
I
manifest
agree.
itself.
at
I
this
agree with
point,
that, brother Ian.
At this point, it says it is not. So it depends on where are we in the prophecy when it says it is not.
Brother
That's a
David, a quick point. As the other brother was talking, it seems like the true nature of the beast itself is not yet totally shown, and in the last days it will be shown, like the true nature of it. Like we haven't seen anything yet from the beast. Is that, to me, that's what I'm getting there.
Well, I mean, I agree with that. The only you brought up something that puts a little thought in my mind, which is the only reservation I have at the moment, because it says the beast that you saw was and does not presently exist. So the question is, when can we say it does not presently exist, but it is still to come? When? So that would have to be if we are at after the yellowhead. If we are there in that little brief period, we could say it was and it is not, and then it is yet to come. But we are not there because it says we're at head number 6 in the prophecy, because it says the beast that you saw, the 5 heads are fallen, one is. That's the red head. So that's where we should be at the moment that the angel is talking to John. Somebody's mic is open. The angel is speaking to John. We get a red head, and he says one is still to come. So at the red head is where it says the beast was and is not and will come sometime in the future. That's what is
Mr.
creating.
David.
That's what is creating a little challenge in my mind, just based on
Yes,
the
but
questions you asked. Yes, go ahead, Brother Joel.
but when this prophecy was, we are sometime past that now, I would
I know,
think.
agreed.
And so,
Um,
you, go ahead.
so it really depends on, do we put ourselves at a point where the angel is speaking, or do we put ourselves where we are in time?
We have to put it where the angel was speaking so we can understand the perspective on what was being said. And I
Right.
believe that when it says that this is the beast that was, in other words, all of history coming on, all of these heads, this beast was manifesting itself through the heads. It still is not, because it's still not showing its true self, but it shall come when it's going to show its true self through the horns. So at the point where the angel spoke, it still was not. It's the speech has some amount of enigma in it, in that it is saying, look here, this particular kingdom or force or system has been there, but yet still it's not appearing in its true nature. But it shall come when it shall appear. That's how I understand it.
May I ask a question?
I see Brother Wayne and I see Brother Joel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this more closely. It raises a question in my mind that I need to look at more closely, and I will look at it more closely this coming week. That's the best I can say, because it raises a question that I didn't think of before. Brother Joel and then Brother Wayne.
No, I suspect, and I don't know that I'm right. Brother Ian might very well be right in terms of where we are looking at this from, but I'm always mindful of the fact that the book I'm looking at is deeply spiritual. And, you know, when I look at where we are in time, and it's a presumption on my part, David, that I look at everything that is happening around us, and in my mind, I figure that where we are now is where that yellow beast is at. That's some 2,000 years almost after John's revelation in this book, and speaking about where we are under that red color that you're looking at there. I find it hard to believe in my mind, and it puts us, I think, somewhat, we're not as far as long as I believe in the Lord's coming if we're still there at that R right now and not at the question mark, not at the one that John did not have enough information on to give to us at the point he was making it.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect, considering where we are politically in the world today and the antagonism that we're seeing, based on your own understanding of what you understand the mark of the beast to be, that we are far along in its maturity to recognize that atheism is taking a strong stance against all forms of religion, particularly Christianity. So I can't imagine in this atmosphere with where we are now that we are not close to where we would be finding the beast coming forward to reveal itself as the it. I find it hard to imagine
Yes,
that that is not so.
I fully agree with that, Brother Joel, and I agree that in my understanding, we're at head number 7. We're at the yellow head, the question mark, as you put it. So there's just the issue of where are we in terms of when the angel is explaining this to John, and as I said, there's
Can I make
a
a
question.
statement?
I see you, Brother Matt. It's Brother Wayne before you, but let me just so, as I said, for me personally, I think that's something I have to re-examine this week. But in terms of the state of this diagram and where we are, I don't think we can. I don't think I could counter the idea that we are at the yellow head, because that's where we are, and we're about to see the emergence of the beast from the bottomless pit as soon as the yellow head goes down. But we are still there. So, Brother Wayne, and then Brother Matt.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, when Ian spoke about the beast showing its true color, is that a time when it says in Daniel a time of trouble such as never was, or is that something else separate?
I think it's during the same period of time. I mean, when the beast comes from the bottomless pit, that signifies, in my understanding, the end of probation. That's the bottomless pit, and it's the same time that we are going to see this time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation. I mean, the time of trouble such as never was is a subset of that time that we refer to as the bottomless pit. The Bible, we are told here in Revelation that it will be for a brief period, for 1 hour. Now, I don't know if it's literal prophetic time, 1 hour, but the word 1 hour signifies a brief period of time. So, yeah, it's the same time of trouble. Same. It overlaps with that time of trouble that we see in Daniel. Brother Matt, you can go ahead.
So, according to your drawing, each of these first 6 empires existed in their full manifestation with complete dominance over the known world at the time. The 7th head, currently, if we're in the 7th head, doesn't do that. It doesn't have complete world dominance or control over civilizations. Some, maybe a lot, more than they should, but not complete. I think we're moving toward that direction in complete dominance and control over the world very soon. But I don't think that yellow portion, that 7th head, is come to fruition fully yet. I mean, that's my thought.
You're absolutely right, because remember it says that after the Roman head, the Roman head corresponds to the feet of iron in the image. And after the feet of iron, it says that there would be iron and clay. And the Bible tells you they will not cleave together. And this kind of corresponds very nicely with what we see in the European Union, where we see elements of the strong mingled with the weak, and we see an endeavor to combine these European nations in one, but it keeps fracturing and falling apart. So this is an excellent fulfillment of what we saw on the feet of iron and clay. And so we don't expect this yellow head to ever again gain world dominance. As a matter of fact, as you say, the first 6 heads, they were dominant in the known world, in the world where we have history. Right? Somebody will say there was a lot of history in other parts of the world, but it's not known. You know, where we have history and where biblical history takes place is in the world of Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. That's the biblical world, and that's where these nations dominated. Now, yellowhead, question mark head, will never again have that dominance, because now the world has expanded. Now the world has expanded to South America, Australia, Africa, the Americas, the Caribbean. It's far bigger, and the European beast can never again dominate the planet like it once dominated that part of the world. But it still gains great dominance in that part of the world. That's when the beast comes out of this beast is not a global beast. Let me say that. When this beast comes out of the pit, with his 10 heads, with his 10 horns. It's not a global beast. It's a European beast. It's an old world beast, because at the same time, in the new world, America is still dominant. America is still there as a false prophet, the two-horned beast. So you have two beasts reigning contemporaneously, but America is pushing the agendas. And I would have to say maybe we mean in a spiritual sense, because I don't think politically or economically America is following Europe. But I'd have to say, when the Bible says that America is making an image of the European beast and is promoting the worship of the European beast, it has to be in spiritual matters, and I think we can all agree with this. Europe is following America economically, and America is not even following Europe politically. Everybody would say America is a greater entity, but in spiritual matters, who is taking the lead? Who has taken the lead? And so I think that what we are looking at is, in terms of the matters that pertain to our religious destiny, Europe is the one who is setting the pace.
David, could it be possible? Is it possible then that this yellowhead is a phase of the beast when it is not?
It's a thought. It's something to think about, right? I'm not going to say yes or no, but it's worth looking at, and I will look at it more closely. Brother Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, you're talking about the seventh kingdom being iron mixed with clay. It doesn't clay normally, as used in the Bible, refer to people? So the seventh kingdom, the mixture of iron and clay, could that be the mixture of the traditional imperialism that we see in the past six kingdoms, with a different form of government employing the will of the people, like democracy? This seventh kingdom, I'm just wondering, what the clay, I take it you mean the clay is just denoting the fact that, like, iron really doesn't mix with clay, but couldn't the clay, as normatively used in the Bible, like for instance Isaiah 64 verse, it says we are the clay, we are the people of God. So can't the clay also be denoting the people? And this seventh, I'm finished. Yeah.
Yeah, it could, Brother Judah, but I'm a little reluctant to approach it in this way, because it drags us into places where we have to be a little inconsistent with how we interpret the prophecy. Because if you look at the prophecy, okay, this is Daniel's interpretation. It says whereas thou sawest the feet of and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with the miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So in the three verses that give you an interpretation of the iron and clay, what it focuses on is the inability of both things to mix together. And it focuses on the distinction between the strength of one and the weakness of the other. Now, here's the thing about the suggestion you made. Would you say the iron represents people? It represents a kingdom, right? But it represents a kingdom that is made up of people. So what would the clay represent? You would have to say the whole thing, the iron and the clay, represents a kingdom. So if the clay represents people, how would we interpret the iron? We can't say it's a kingdom with people in it, because every kingdom has people. So I find that, you know, by bringing in the element of interpreting a part of the image as individual people or some special aspect of human beings, it makes the rest of the image take on a completely different aura than when you come to the feet, because We don't interpret any part on the image in that way. So,
David, I think what Brother Judah was alluding to is not necessarily people, but the kind of government. People represents democracy. It's a different form of politics from the imperialism that represent the autocracy, and I think that's what he was talking about. The different a mixture of democracy, which is in a sense would appear weak compared
okay,
to imperialism. I think that's what he was referring to. Is that
That's
correct, Brother?
exactly what I'm referring to.
okay.
I have a
So,
thought. I have a good
That's exactly
thought.
what I'm referring to. And because I am just using the clay, I mean, in the typical way we look in the concordance and see what clay means in the Bible. And I understand what you set out in terms of what Daniel purports clearly gives an explanation. But this explanation would not be dissonant from the clay signifying a different form of government, a new form of government that the seventh king manifests, and it may be what weakens it in terms of the traditional strength of the empires before, but I don't see it as dissonant in terms of looking at the king as the iron as denoting not people and the clay as denoting, because the people is not people as in you and I, but the popular form of government that democracy is. So people doesn't denote individual persons, but popular government.
all right, I
have a
understand a
thought.
little bit now, but I will say this. When we look at the prophecy, you would say, when God put this prophecy together, is this what he was saying? Because I would say, if we interpret it this way, there is no reason to say it could not mean this. But I would say, look at the prophecy and say, is this what he meant? And if this is what he meant, what is the point? Because
I mentioned a thought.
yes,
Sorry.
Brother Mark, go ahead.
Okay. I see this verse as an expression of Hebrew parallelism. And I may be saying something that's pretty obvious, but and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they, a certain people, shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. That term, seed of men, reminds me of a verse in Genesis where it talks about the sons of God mingled with the sons, the daughters of God mingled with the sons of God mingled with the women of the world, or the seed of men.
Daughters of men.
Yeah, the women. You know what I'm talking about, right? So I'm wondering if there are two distinct peoples that did not mix. Maybe now it's applied to more of a spiritual application.
Yeah.
You know, like a symbolism rather than physical people. But
I mean, the way Uriah Smith and Adventism interprets it, it seems to make sense to me, because the way they interpret it is that okay, once Rome was a mighty kingdom, solid iron, it could pound and break and destroy, but Rome lost its strength. It was broken up into pieces, and they say this was their interpretation. When it says they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, it means that they would try to unite themselves by intermarriage. In other words, they say there was a time when every crowned head in Europe was related by, you know,
that's right. I remember.
The French king was related to the German king, and so on. So they try to bring about unity, not like the former empires which did it through war and conquest, but they try to do it through intermarriage. And so they say this is what it means, that they mingle themselves with the seed of men. I don't know that it means this or it doesn't mean this, but it seems to make sense to me. But it says that in spite of this, they shall not cleave one to another. At the very least, what we can see is that they make strong efforts to unite themselves, and it's efforts that are not based on war and conquest necessarily, because the Bible emphasizes mingling themselves with the seed of men. Now, to Brother Judah's suggestion that, you know, mingling with the seed of men could imply using a different system of government, involving different systems of government in their endeavor to unite themselves, you know, introducing things like people-based government, democracy, and so forth. I suppose that could be a part of it as well. But some of these things, the best we can say is it could be, and that's why I'm kind of a little bit nebulous about it, because it could be we still don't have something to get our teeth into to say, you know, here is the point God was making when he said this. And but it fits because that's what they have been trying to do. They have tried to use democracy, they have tried to use intermarriage, and you know, all of those could legitimately be what it is talking about. So I wouldn't say no, it couldn't mean that. You know, I'm kind of just like up in the air, not really convicted or not convicted about it at all. Anyway,
I mean to say was that it was religious people, like the people of God, literally speaking, in their time, it was the people of God mixed with pagan worshippers, you know, with people who didn't worship God. That's specifically what I see there. You know, the sons of men mingled with. You took the verse right.
Again, you know, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Who will mingle themselves? They who? I mean, it's
Who's
talking
they?
about,
Yeah.
who is they? It's talking about the iron and the clay, which doesn't mix. And it says they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, and it says there shall be in it the strength of iron. For me, the best application is where it says there will be in it the strength of iron and the weakness of clay. And if you ask yourself a question, what point is God making? I think the point he's making is that men will make efforts to reunite the empire, and it won't work. I think he's saying that in the last days, when you come down to the last part of the kingdoms of the empires of the world, they'll be trying very hard to unite these empires, and they won't succeed. I don't think he's saying they're going to try to make Christians unite with the world, or I don't think he's trying to say they will try, well, I suppose he could say they will try different forms of government, but that's not the point really. The point is they are going to be trying very hard to create another super empire. The point is that men want world domination, and they're working towards this, and they are trying different means, but it will never again happen, although we see that for a brief moment in Europe, we're going to have the beast kingdom, but even then it won't be a global domination, because you will have the other beast on this side of the world. So what he's really saying, the main point of what is being said is that they will try again to create a global empire. If you want to call it a one world government then, right? But it won't happen, it won't work. And they're going to try every way to do it, but it won't happen. That's the message I get, you know, and we could say, yeah, there are several ways by which they try to accomplish this. You know, so we could try to fit those ways into the meaning of the iron and the clay. But I think the main message is what we probably should we can emphasize and we can be certain about.